Hello everyone, welcome to episode 57 of FPL BlackBox, the second Black Box of Game Week 21. A lot of happy Bowen owners in the chat, Mark.
Game Week 22, you're wishing it away. 2022 we're up to, but yes, delighted. You've got to be happy, haven't you, with the captaincy? Were we 50-50 on Antonio Bowen? No, I guess we weren't.
No, I never really thought about taking it off him, but I did think they were kind of similarly matched, you know. I wasn't expecting one to get 42 points and one to get 9. That's a big discrepancy.
He's broken live FPL tonight as well. No one can get on. Ragaboli's propellers going round and round really quickly, try and get the site back up online. Everyone wants to see their rank. Obviously, I think if you went the Antonio call, it's easily forgiven. I mean, after the first game at Palace, I watched that and I thought, oh, is Antonio back to his best? And I thought, have I made the wrong call? It was tight. I just always favoured Bowen because he's the mid, right? And it's the extra point for the clean sheet. And
and we've seen Antonio drifting a bit wide and off form, and FPL wise. So yeah, I think it was the kind of obvious call, but I don't. Like I said, I think if you went for Antonio, you got punished just like you would have done if you went for Havertz over Salah all those weeks ago. There's just been certain decisions this season, haven't there, which I think have really harshly punished people who've tried to be a bit different. But yeah, fair play. Anyone that captained Bowen, great return.
Yeah, indeed. That's just one of the highlights from tonight, of course, but we've got plenty to discuss as usual. We obviously did a free hit episode last week where we looked in detail at stats and data and so on, and not too much has changed. We've had the Son injury, of course, but nothing too much other than that. But we're going to we'll dig into the data now again, but this is going to be a shorter episode than normal, I think. I always say that, and it never turns into that. But we're going to touch on...
I think you're forgetting a pretty big thing that's happened.
What's that?
This
what?
week. Chris Wood has signed for Newcastle FC.
Okay, well, I know you can't wait to talk Chris Wood because you love him so much, but we are going to talk about Chris Wood. We're going to talk about Coutinho. We're going to talk about our own teams as an example of what the options are this week again. We'll look at the long-term strategy again. But of course, it's been very, very difficult to plan anything long-term or even mid-term, given the situation we're in. And of course, what we should start with, I call it, is the Everton postponement and how that hit managers again in this game. I mean, we talk about Antonio or Bowen. Maybe, there is luck involved in that, but there definitely is luck involved in missing out on Everton and Leicester players, right?
Yeah. I mean, anyone that invested in Everton, even if they had a couple of games, was brave, in my view. The Calvert-Lewin coming back from injury, defence, a shambles. Someone like Gray, I thought was a fairly decent pick. And
great pick, I thought.
Yeah. It was the fact that you go, in theory, go straight into the Norwich game, which I think was swaying quite a few people as well, because to have the double and then the game. So, yeah, I do get it. Again, it's just one of those things, you can't control it. I mean, the Calvert-Lewin one, I'm missing the penalty as well.
Yeah, I know.
God.
I know. It's like the Salah thing all over again. I mean, there was even people out there who captained Calvert-Lewin, which I think is a bit hopeful that he would come back and make an instant impact. I mean, he's a player we want back in our teams, right? We want him back in our season like Bamford, really. We want that option. So I guess people got a bit carried away going on the captaincy with him, but I think he was a sound investment. He could have been the difference maker in the game week, but as it turned out, I mean, the COVID situation, what's difficult there for me is that Leicester obviously turned up for their FA Cup tie and won 4-1, and yet couldn't field a team in the Premier League. And I understand it. They're going to, try and use the rule-ins to not put themselves at a disadvantage, and obviously they felt they were. They had players out, and they've got a lot of players out, players at the AFCON, of course, as well. But, that's no consolation for FPL managers who owned their players and Everton players, is it?
No, I mean, you've got different rules for the Cup and for the League. So Leicester have got to have 13 first-team players available for the Premier League match. They're currently 5 off that. So they're obviously looking like they're going to be getting a couple of players back. I think you mentioned Daka looks like he could be back, and Dewsbury Hall and maybe a couple of others.
Sionchu as well, I think he's close.
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky one for Leicester because obviously they've got a decent looking double. With Burnley in there as well, having now lost probably their best player. You want to invest in them, but then the deadline's Friday and they're playing on the Sunday, so it's I don't know. I feel really weird about Leicester. I don't like it.
It's dicey. You've got a certain Leicester player in your team. No, I don't think anyone who's regularly watched you or this show will be surprised to know who that is. We'll talk about him later on when we start looking at our teams.
I haven't got him yet, but I want him.
No,
but
I was watching
is
The
he worth
Wire
the gamble?
earlier as well, and they're all lumping on Maddison too. I mean, I'm going for a different player in there. It is a tough call. I think for that double game week midfielder, there's about 5 or 6 in the running for it. Obviously, Son was the standout candidate, and he's now knocked out for at least 3 or 4 weeks, we think. Game week 24 at least, he's going to miss up till then. I think it's going to be longer. So he's gone, and that leaves us with like a pool of 5 or 6 players, which we'll touch on later. And it's difficult to decide between them. But Maddison seems to be the overwhelming favourite at the moment.
I think Leicester in general just have the most options. Like United, it's all about Ronaldo. Spurs, it's more Reguilon, Royale, maybe Lloris, but like none of them really stand out. Watford, you've got Dennis King. Chelsea, you've got Mount, maybe Alonso. But I think you can make a case with Leicester for Maddison, Tielemans, Barnes, Lookman, or Daka if he's back.
If Daka's back, yeah.
If he's back. Yeah. So, the Burnley match just looks so good for them. But I do like the look of it. They actually play on I said they play on the Sunday. They do play on the Saturday. So, I mean, hopefully we'll get some news on Friday ahead of the deadline at 8.
We're all craving that for all manner of reasons. So yeah, that's the episode. We'll see how it goes. It's going to be a bit rambly, but there's no harm in that. It's sometimes the best ones, right?
It's not like us.
We'll see. I just want to start with the FA Cup because my boys Forest defeated my other team, Arsenal, again, and I was quite proud of that. There's not much to take from the FA Cup, was there? I mean, United struggled again. Spurs didn't look that convincing. Had to get Kane and Moore off the bench and so on to actually rescue that tie. I think we already know that there's going to be one fixture for Ben Crellin's. There is one fixture assured now for game week 30. I think there's going to be maximum of 8 postponements for game week 30 now. So that that will take shape round by round. That is obviously game week 30, the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, when we will have blanks, right? And quite a few teams have gone out. So hopefully it won't be that a severe blank after one game week 30. We'll have to see. Not too much from the FA Cup. I just want to mention Forest because we played well.
I think the key one from an FPL perspective is how well Villa played against United, since they're playing first match of the double. I mean, how they ended up losing that game was, United can count themselves very fortunate to get through in that. So United are going to have to play better than that at Villa Park if they're going to have the same score. Yeah,
and they got Brentford in the second game of the double game week. Let's just remind ourselves what the game week 22 doubles look like. Brentford, Liverpool away, Man United at home, Brighton, Palace at home, Chelsea at home, Burnley, Leicester at home, Watford at home, Chelsea, City away, Brighton away, Leicester, Burnley away, Spurs at home, Man United, Aston Villa away, Brentford away, Spurs, Arsenal at home, Leicester away, and then Watford with the best combination of Newcastle away and Burnley away. Although Newcastle, we're going to talk about them. The revolution will be televised. It's going on, right?
Getting knocked out by Cambridge is unbelievable, isn't it? We all got to talk about Newcastle. Trippier, I'll save it for the bit we'll talk about Trippier and Wood, but I do think it's a hell of a signing from Newcastle, signing Chris Wood from Burnley.
Well, he's got a proven championship record, right? So
it just weakens Burnley, doesn't it? Like one of the main relegation teams losing their best player, and they're kind of guaranteed 10 goals a season striker. I don't really know how they can replace that. What's Sean Dyche going
to do? He's surely going to go shopping for a striker. Are they going to get like Brereton Diaz or something? I don't know. I mean,
I've got no idea.
Well, I mean, they're going to have to replace. Otherwise, they're more or less going, we're relegating ourselves by selling Wood and not replacing him, aren't they?
Well, they didn't have a choice because they matched his release clause. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's a strange one. I mean, would someone like Diaz go from the Championship just to probably come straight back down?
No, that's a tough call, isn't it? He can probably do better, I would have thought. He can probably take his pick to a certain extent of mid-table teams. I guess Burnley are a mid-table team, though. It's local, Blackburn, Burnley, right? So,
true.
Ain't got far to go. Ain't got far to go for the Chilean, has he? So, we'll have to see. Right, let's talk about our game weeks then, because we want to be a little bit smug, because I got nearly 100 points. But we'll look at your team first of all. This is freshly updated. The whistle's just gone at the Olympic Stadium, of course. So, we haven't got our ranks updated in time, but that's where we were before the live FPL went down. I think your arrow will be green now, though, because the Bowen's second goal, 42-point return for the captain. Do you want to talk for your team, though, bit by bit?
Not really. I was
Go
saying to you earlier, wasn't I? There's some players here that I
There's a couple of classics at the back.
There
Come
is. So De Gea in goal, Trent and Cancelo, off to a good start. Ben Johnson, who I'm amazed that a 4 million defender who I bought in as bench fodder could be as bad as he's been for me. So in all the games I've played him, he's ended up with 0 or 1, which has been very impressive. I bought in Ethan Pinnock for a 4-point hit. I got slated for that,
and justifiably,
and everyone was right. Yeah. So he got 3. So I could have just played Martinelli, saved the 4-point hit, and made 2 points on that or something. No, 3 points. So yeah, it cost me a bit. Son 6, but now injured. Jota, Bowen, captain, which a lot of people have got, and then Ronaldo, King, and Antonio. Just nothing exciting, really. My team's just a bit boring, and then the players I'm looking at to get me points are Ben Johnson and Pinnock.
I still messed up your bench. Look, King's not on your bench. That's Foden with 0 points is the first update, because King swapped in as your auto sub.
It does look a little bit better when you swap one of Johnson or Pinnock out for Phil Foden.
It does, but you've now got
it look a little bit
Livramento, Johnson and Pinnock, which is that's problems, isn't it? That's looking around the dressing room, you've got to look those guys in the eye now every week. Wow.
The thing is, though, I was looking earlier. There's no defenders that I want. Like, I don't even know who to. I can have any defender I want. The one I probably want the most is Robertson, but then I'm going to be, that could cause me problems down the line when I want to get Salah back, and I'm going to have to switch things around. Like Chelsea defenders, I could get another City defender, I guess, but then they've got Chelsea in the next and no double game week. So I guess it's like it's Lamptey who I've been talking about, or one of Reguilon or Royale. But Brighton have got the blank coming up.
I think if
fully trust Spurs.
If Arsenal didn't have the blanks, Tierney would be a good bet.
Yeah, he would.
Because I think that he offers so much going forward, but they got the 2 blanks coming up, right? So it's difficult to. You'd have to get him in and have someone to rotate with him. Not sure Pinnock. He's your man there. I don't know why I'm laughing. I got Pontus Jansson earlier in the season, so we've all been there, done it. I'm sure all of us have had a Brentford defender at some point. Rico Henry, I don't know. And not so long ago, we were lauding Brentford, but your dad was right. I watched the Southampton game last night, and they're in trouble. They're in trouble.
Well, something that really surprised me when I was doing this video with Janny, about we did like a full season look through all the teams, and it was that Brentford only got 2 clean sheets all season.
Wow.
And it was surprising because we talked about them at the start of the season having such a good defensive numbers, but they've actually got one of the worst clean sheet records in the league. So I don't really know what I was thinking with Pinnock. You just kind of hoping for that. I just wanted that kind of double game week miracle,
He can take your long throws for you. Absolutely no use whatsoever.
I was playing football last night, and I didn't know what the scores were, and I just checked it, and it was 3-1 when I checked it, and I was just like, really? And then literally as I was checking it just went 4-1, and I was like, what?
Rubbed the salt into the wounds.
Really did. Yeah.
My score was 93, I believe, because I think Diop got a sneaky bonus point as well, just to rub salt into the wound there. I went Diop over Johnson. I followed Irons' advice. If you're FBL Irons said, because I was going to go Dawson and I'll spend a bit more, and he went, oh no, go Diop because he's cheaper. And I was like, yeah, but Dawson's got the set piece threat and everything. But it did. Irons was right. I went with him, and Diop did me proud. Got the extra bonus point over Dawson, so I was pleased with that. My team was Gaeta 1 point, which I've come customary 1 point from Gaeta. Trent 4, Cancelo 2, Reguilon 6, the lesser spotted Reguilon. Diop 8, Son 6, Bowen the massive plaster over the top, 42 points. Jota with a 5, Ronaldo 2, Antonio had a disappointing 9, and then Broha with 8 points, which was very handy indeed. Yeah,
Broha wiping out my Pinnock clean sheet, or at least contributing to the 0 points.
Yeah, see, chipping away, aren't I? Chipping away at you. I've got a decent amount back off you this week, so I think the gap is down to under 70 points again now.
Oh no! So, you did take a -8 this week.
I did. I did take a -8. Absolutely, but and 4 that was for Son, which I got back, but now Son's obviously a problem to me and everybody else. And we're not going to look at the great and the good league, but I know that I am still bottom by default because Les Caldwell is bottom, but obviously he was hacked, which had nothing to do with me, even though he's now bottom replacing me. No, I don't have a hotline to that. Don't start those rumours. No, we shouldn't be. Poor Les, blimey. But yeah, he's not really bottom. I'm still bottom. But you're knocked off the top, so that cheered me up a bit. Good old FPL General, good old Mark. He comes in and takes top spot off you, which I was chuffed about. So yeah, brilliant stuff. We'll look at the Great and the Good League again next week. We've looked at Double Gameweek 22. Let's talk about the situation, because one of the things we didn't touch on last week when we looked at this was where we can play the free hit again. And we did touch on the fact that, let's bring up the chip strategy, in fact, because I've updated it. We looked at all the game weeks where you can play chips coming up. And, from 23 onwards, there's a lot of things going on. There's either double game week or blanking a lot of the game weeks to come now, as you can see from this table. And we talked about the potential double game weeks from 32 onwards, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. We think the majority of those will be double game weeks. I say we, I mean Ben Crellin. So there's plenty of opportunity to play the free hit. One game week we didn't dwell on too much was game week 27, which is the EFL Cup final. And in game week 27, going back to Ben's chart, we can see that Arsenal and Liverpool both have a blank in game week 27 because one of them's going to reach the final, right? That's given. So their game is off, which means that fixture is off, which means that if you've got Arsenal and Liverpool players, you've got a plan for that. And why that's significant, going back to the chip strategy, is because in game week 26, we believe there's a good chance that Liverpool will have a double game week, which will be Norwich and Leeds. And therefore Salah...
what a double game week that is.
Salah will be a shoe-in triple captain, right? Which is not much fun, is it, really? I would have liked the triple captain to be... it's nice when it's like, shall I play it now? Shall I put it on Andy Carroll? Is it, shall I put it on a Wolves centre-back? That kind of thing. No, we don't want to go that far. But sometimes it is really tricky, isn't it, the triple captain? But if that double game week does drop in, it's a no-brainer, right?
Oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I didn't know the double game was going to be that good. I don't see how you couldn't triple captain Salah in that. I guess you get a bit of a jump on people who maybe already used it and things like that. But I mean, his EO is going to be probably like 230, 240, something like that. I imagine that with all the chips being used, it'll set a new record, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy situation. Leeds at home, Norwich at home. And bearing in mind what Salah has done to Leeds before, what everyone has done to Norwich before. So you've got to think that you've got a plan to get Salah back ahead of 26, because if that double game week drops, you've got to have him and you've got to put the triple captain on him, I would have said. I say got to. I mean, we don't like to preach and say, this is what you must do. But of all the kind of learnings we've had in previous seasons, if the top asset in the game has got a double game week, you go with it. If he's got a double game week with great fixtures, both at home, but the key is in 27, if we go into 27 with 3 Liverpool players and maybe 1 or 2 Arsenal players, and I've got Martinelli and Ramsdale, and I intend to have them for 20 up to 27, I've got a problem. I'm going to have 5 players not playing in 27. So one of the reasons why it is perhaps good to reserve the free hit chip, not only for game week 30 when the FA Cup quarterfinals will reduce the fixture list down, probably halve it, if not more. You need it for 27 as well, maybe, if you plan to have Arsenal and Liverpool players. And let's face it, a lot of us will, right? So what's your thinking about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And like we talked about last week, I don't think this double game week is as good, is that good. I think there's uncertainty around Leicester. You've got tricky games for a lot of clubs. And, we've talked about the assets and which ones I think if you've got 6 and you've got a Ronaldo or a Kane for your captain, I think you're fine. You're sorted. I don't think you need to be free hitting for a lot of sort of lesser good players. I mean, Mora is someone that I see a lot of people talking about at the moment. I'm absolutely not convinced on Spurs or Mora in general. I mean, it's like if you're going to be free hitting for players like Trossard and Mora and stuff, like you just need everything to align, and it could do, right? I'm not saying it's completely ridiculous, but I just think that we can save these for. There's going to be there's going to be better times down the line.
Well, let's bring up. We're a bit all over the place. We're moving about quite a bit, but I think while we're here, let's bring up the watch list that I put together last week. I've updated it slightly. Taken Son out on the midfield, of course. Rejigged the order according to some of the things that you said. I didn't take notice of everything you said because for obvious reasons. Pinnock being one of them. But yeah, so this is the order I've got it in now. I promoted Lloris on your say.
Royale's up to top.
Royale's at the top because Reguilon didn't turn up again tonight. He hasn't been in a squad now for 3 matches. There hasn't been any noise from Spurs on it either. I listened to Planet FBL this week. And James, always my go-to for knowledge on Spurs. I always try and test the temperature according to what James is saying about what's going on in Spurs, if I want to get a Spurs player or thinking of getting one. And he was like, well, Reguilon will be fine. They're just resting him and he'll play both games. But I expect him to at least be on the bench. So I don't know whether Conte's going to say anything tonight. Hopefully he will. I want to keep him. But at the moment, with that doubt, I think if you were free hitting, you wouldn't go with him, would you?
I wouldn't go with him anyway. I think I said last week, didn't I, that I'd pick Royale at the moment over Reguilon. I think Reguilon is struggling a little bit with the demands of the system Tuchel's doing anyway, and I wonder if maybe he's been taken out to kind of work a bit more on fitness and on style, because there's no doubt his quality. He's an absolutely fantastic player, and I think he's going to thrive in that wing back role. But the fact he's been subbed quite a bit and missed some games, and hasn't been that kind of key figure that we thought he would be at left wing back. It is very interesting that he's missed. I completely agree. I was definitely expected him to be. Did I say Tuchel? I meant Conte, by the way, as the chat points out. Yeah, I don't know. It's we need some information.
We do,
but I liked the fact that Royale got 2 bonus. That was the main thing for me. Just lumping in those crosses.
78 crosses he put in.
Love that.
I know. I mean, it's fair enough. I mean, I think Reguilon's a far better player, and I really hope he does, appear, because it puts me in a difficult spot. Because I don't want to get rid of him because he could turn up, and even if he turns up for 1 game, that might be enough because he's got some attacking intent. So I don't know what to do with that. And if I knew he was out, it might be enough to tip me over the edge with the free hit, as we'll see later on when we look at our teams. Let's just go through this watch list for the podcast listeners, though. I'll do keepers and defenders, and you can talk through midfielders and forwards. Keepers, De Gea is probably hands down the first choice, right, if you're free hitting. Then you've got Lloris, Sanchez, Pope I've promoted because he's back, he's fit. He played at the weekend. They've got good fixtures, but terrible record at the moment. But I think he is still ahead of Schmeichel, Bachmann, Arrizabalaga and Fernandes, the forlorn Fernandes, who is playing in front of Ethan Pinnock. Defenders are Royale, Lamptey, Alonso, Maguire, or Slabad, as he's referred to in the chat already. People are exasperated that Maguire is 4th in this list. But I don't. If you're going to go a Man United defender, who do you go? It's either Varane or Maguire, right? You can't go a fullback at the moment. But then if you've got De Gea, you're probably not going to go a Man United defender. So Royale, Lamptey, Alonso, Maguire. Me, difficult with the Burnley defender. You go the fullback, Loughton. You can go Tarkowski. But I've gone me because I think he's probably got the greater goal threat this season. Someone called Pinnock, and then Thomas and Cathcart. That's the defenders. It is slim pickings, as we said last week, isn't it? It is awful.
I mean, when Maguire's 4th
I know.
on the list,
I know.
It's really bad. I mean, you could maybe add Rudiger in there as well.
Yeah, well, you're not going to have 2 Chelsea defenders, are you, Lo? So, would you go Alonso over Rudiger? I think you would. I think Alonso rested tonight. The trouble is with Alonso, I never know whether Conte, I'm doing it now, whether Tuchel, sorry, I've gone the other way. I never know whether Tuchel thinks Alonso's rubbish and he's just trying to find any solution not to play Alonso, because I've heard tonight they're trying to get Kennedy back.
They've got him back, I think. They tried to get Emerson back.
Right,
but he's got a big clause in it, so they couldn't do it. Rumours they're trying to get Bertrand back. I mean, is Bertrand
What's Graham Lasso doing these days? Can he come back? Bloody hell. Desperate. I mean, that's what I mean. It looks like they're going, Christ, we've got to get someone back. Otherwise, we're stuck with Alonso. Now, I presume it's because he's got to play every game and they've got European matches. But I am starting to get worried now. The desperation they're showing to get another left back in the club again is worrying me a little bit, that maybe Alonso isn't in favour. But no, I think he's...
Can't they play Azpilicueta there? He was a decent, competent, I guess, at wing back, but he played there a bit at the start of the season.
You'd think that would be cover enough. They played Sarr there tonight, didn't they? I don't know how he got on, but yeah, I think Alonso's the one you go. It's worth a dice roll, isn't it? It's funny actually, because a few weeks back I did a video with Andy for Scout, and we were talking about as soon as the injury to James happened, he said to me, "Would you go Alonso or do you go Diaz of City?" And I'm like, "Oh, Diaz of City, so boring." Diaz of City's probably outscored Alonso by about 30 points since then. But
I definitely wouldn't buy Alonso. Like free hit, fine, but spending money or using a transfer on him. I mean, you've got the 22 games, which you might get both of those if you're lucky, and then Spurs at home, which is a fairly tricky game, and then it's 2 blanks.
Yeah.
So from the 23rd of January, he doesn't play again until the 19th of February. I can guarantee that they will have signed a left back in between that time, if not tomorrow, to avoid playing him. But
they're doing everything they can, right?
But it doesn't get worse than that. A double game with Man City, and then Spurs, and then 2 blanks. That is awful. Yeah. So you can't buy him. The only thing you can do is free him in.
Free him in. I mean, he's a player that I probably will end up getting rid of after 22, 23 or something. He might be part of the way to fund Salah, although with Son injured, I don't have to think about funds in that, I don't think. I think we're going to have some money to spend. Do you want to go for the midfielders?
Yep. So my mate Maddison is at top of the list, which you love to see. And then it's Fernandes, who I haven't once considered, but is an intriguing one, I think. Just because he is flying so under the radar. I haven't seen him in any
Late risers putting him in. Late risers bringing him in on the transfer as well, not even free hit.
But along with Ronaldo and Kane?
He's doing Son to Fernandes. No, he's not free hitting.
He's not free hitting. He's bringing Fernandes in on a free hit. Oh, wow. That's... I don't know about that. I guess you've got money, you've got money, haven't you? But... I'm not so sure about that, but fair enough. Then Lucas Moura, and then Tielemans, and then Mount, and then it just gets desperate, doesn't it?
Well, I think you're being unfair to Trossard there.
Really?
I think Trossard, Mount, Tielemans, Moura are in that. They're the 4 or 5 that. Who do I go for? And really, that one of them's going to go gangbusters and the others are going to flop, right? And it's whether you can pick the right one, really, isn't it? But yeah, it's Trossard, and then what? Jorginho.
I mean, Trossard's had 5 games this season in which he's got an attacking return out of 21.
Yeah.
That's not great.
No, but as I said, the Chelsea game, I think he will be played in the false 9, and he's done well in that role previously against good teams. Yeah. I think he's all right. In this game week, with the choice we've got,
I know.
He's there, isn't he? Right, he's got to be mentioned. Anyway, go on, carry on.
And then it's Jorginho, Mbomo.
Mbomo's back.
God, McNeil and McAllister.
Yeah, not Gary, although he could probably do a turn as well. Can't play left back though, Tuchel, in case you're wondering.
Conte.
No, I'm not. Stop doing that. You're confusing me.
Mourinho.
Up front then?
And then up front, Kane, Ronaldo, Dennis, King. We've got Wood in there, but I'm guessing that's from the Burnley days.
That's going to have to go now, isn't it?
Not there anymore. And then Cavani, Mopé, Lukaku and Tony. I mean, Lukaku being that far down, Lukaku being under Mopé.
Well, Brighton
for
have got
a double game week.
Brighton have got better fixtures, and does Lukaku play 2 games? He probably does. But he started tonight, didn't he? And Havertz was on the bench, so don't know.
You would just expect him. It's just one of those ones. You'd expect him to be up with Kane and Ronaldo, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Not that being up with Kane and Ronaldo is what it should be either. We've said time and time again this season, none of these strikers are warranting their price tag, and that includes Kane, Ronaldo, and Lukaku. None of them really. I mean, even though those names look amazing, and we look at it and think, well, there is potential in this double game week. Actually, Kane, Ronaldo, and Lukaku of this season aren't really presenting.
I don't trust anyone. The only player I trust is Salah, and he's gone.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. I mean, in previous seasons we've had players like Fernandes, De Bruyne, Son's always been around, Kane's always done well. I mean, Antonio is someone who you could basically rely on, up until about a third of the way through the season, where he just went completely off it. He was just someone you had on your side. Even like someone like Jimenez, you get him in and you just you get a goal and then a blank and then a goal in the back. Or Ings. There's been so many players that we've had in the last couple of seasons that I would just have in my team and just know they're going to get a steady score. And there's just so few players like that now.
Yeah, I think we could add Daka to the forward list now that there's rumblings that he could be fit. I think he could be a consideration because Leicester will have to play him. I don't see them. if he's fit, he plays both games, right? So he could be a real outlier if you're brave enough to go there. But I think up front, you're not looking beyond those first 4 names, are you? Kane, Ronaldo, Dennis, King, right? So you're going to have 3 of those probably. And you're going to have 3 of those because it's hard to find 5 midfielders. You're probably going to go maximum 3 midfielders. I think it's 3-4-3, isn't it? The formation on the free hit.
It's got to be. It's got to be Kane, Ronaldo, and one of Dennis or King. I think. Or maybe you go for the double Watford strikers just because the fixtures are so good. But
Yeah.
I'd rather have Kane Kane, Ronaldo, and Dennis to me is
It's the
best
captaincy,
looking.
isn't it? I think I said last week that if I was free hitting, Kane would probably be my captain, although he really hasn't deserved it. I think that's where I'd go. Okay, let's talk about... We'll come back to the free hit when we look at our teams. But let's talk about some of the player movement we've had recently, which is involving this man, Philippe Coutinho, who's back in the Premier League. And today, good timing, was finally announced with his price tag of 7 million, which is exactly the price tag I hoped they would give him.
Same.
What's your view on that?
Yeah, I thought 7 million would be about right. I thought they'd probably go 7.5, just because that's what they sometimes do when a big name player comes in. I think 7 million is actually a really, really enticing price for him. I think he could be a real impact in our seasons at 7 million. The signings they've made have been really impressive. There's so much creativity in that side. Now, if Dean comes in and hits the ground running with Coutinho, Buendia's looking a bit better now as well, and then you've got Watkins and Ings up top. There should be some real options, between now and the end of the season for Villa. Should be interesting. I wonder where he's going to play.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to think that he's going to be in the 10, right? I would have thought, rather than out wide.
You would have thought so. Because
they've got players in wide positions already. They're pretty well equipped there. Like Traore and El Ghazi.
So do they move Buendia out to the right then and then play Coutinho?
Well, they've played Buendia wide a few times this season, haven't they? So, I mean, I presume he's going to... I mean, that moves Watkins out wide, I guess, with Ings central. I mean, Ings has been disappointing, really, for me. Yeah. I think Watkins is the one who's you most want to see up front. Yeah, it's difficult. He has got a selection. I mean, there's no selection problem. Coutinho's got to start. It's where he starts him. Presumably, he's going to hog set pieces as well. He's going to be a big factor on that. I mean, Buendia's had a lot of them. And others have been shared out, El Ghazi and so on. But you've got to think Coutinho's going to come in and pull rank on a lot of the set plays. Yeah, I mean, let's look at some data. Let's remind ourselves of the player that we had with Coutinho. And I know you've got some data to talk through here. I'll just talk through a couple of tables that I put together. I looked at XGI per 90 minutes for the last season he had at Liverpool. And you see the table here for that season. It was 2017-18 when his final season at Liverpool.
Such good memories.
Salah was top on 0.92 XGI per 90, which is extraordinary. Then it goes down to Aguero, Jesus, Aubameyang, Kane, Giroud, Sterling, Sanchez, Alexis Sanchez, remember him? Lacazette, Nias of Everton, 0.69, and then Coutinho, 0.65. So pretty high up for a midfielder there. A lot of them above him are strikers, big name players. So there's no doubt in that season he was right up there for midfielders. Only really Sterling, Sterling the only midfielder above him that season for XGI per 90. That bodes well, right? And if you look at this season, what's interesting, he would have been just behind, just ahead of Mount and on the same XGI per 90 as Sadio Mane, if he can perform to that level. So right up there. The only players above him, if he came in at that level, would be Sterling again, Ronaldo, Mahrez, Jota and Salah again. I mean, you only got to look at this. Two things, by looking at these numbers, two things are clear. Salah, we're lucky to have him. Look at those numbers. Yeah. And again, look at the forwards in that second table. When you look at XGI per 90, the only forward who has got 0.61 or above is Ronaldo. There's no other forwards in there. It's all midfielders, which is what we touched on last week when we looked at the big chances per 90. It again demonstrates, when you look at 2017-18, it's all forwards apart from Sterling and Coutinho. This season, it's all midfielders apart from Ronaldo. So again, look how it's shifted in those 3 or 4 seasons.
Crazy. I know. Yeah, it really is. I don't know if it makes Coutinho look like a better option or whether it just shows the lack of options that we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of both. But I mean, if he can come in at 7 million and even slightly replicate that form, I mean, the stats that I've got, because I looked at FBref, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, FBref, yeah.
FBref. Yeah, and I kind of looked at, I started off just looking at the minutes, because I think minutes are key with Coutinho. Like, how much has he actually played over the last few seasons? So when he was at Liverpool, he played 20 appearances and then went to Barca sort of halfway through the season, played another 22, so had pretty much a full season. Good stats, good XGI per 90. And I looked at the goals and assists per 90 as well, and that's when he was at his absolute best. But he massively outperformed his expected goal involvement. He nearly doubled it at Liverpool, and the same at Barcelona as well. So that 17-18 season, he was playing like a next level. Like he was just, everything was turning to gold for him. And it was the next season, I mean, it just dropped off so much because he went from doubling his expected goal involvement to not beating it at all, like 0.31 to 0.47, but played 3,345 minutes. So played pretty much every game for Barcelona in the season that he, the next season after he signed. So his first full season at Barca, 54 appearances for Barcelona that season, and only managed 11 goals, 5 assists, and had his worst season there with a goal assist per 9 of 0.31. Well, then went to Bayern and sort of rediscovered it. Rediscovered his form, XGI of 0.57, goal assist per 90 of 0.89. So again, was massively overperforming his expecting goal involvement. Had played majority of games, 38 appearances, 2,000 minutes. Then goes back to Barcelona again and plays kind of 14, so about a third of the games, something like that. 792 minutes. Has a poor season. XGI per 90 of 0.55. Which is like weirdly on par with his season at Liverpool, and better than his season at Barcelona, but just couldn't translate it into actual goals and assists. So he was actually getting involved just as much as he was, but literally like he'd lost his confidence.
I think that bodes well, though. I think what you're showing me here, he has dipped a little bit, right? And this is all competitions, right, compared to my data, which is just Premier League, right? So there's more games at play behind this data. But I think it shows that he has, at times whilst at Barcelona and Bayern, achieved similar levels to what we saw in that final season at Liverpool.
What I found interesting with this was that his expected goal involvement has actually stayed pretty consistent across all of these different clubs and different spells. When he's at the absolute peak of his form, his expected goal involvement is around 0.56, something like that. And it drops down to 0.47 at Barcelona, but that's not a huge drop off per 90. And then it goes up, and then these are still quite good numbers for him. But he needs to be converting the chances more. And does that come with just someone who's more settled in a system and has someone who's got his arm around him, like he had at Bayern?
Well, that's it, isn't it? Gerrard knows him inside out. Played alongside him, knows that surely he knows what he can get from him and how he fits into that Villa team. It's the first Gerrard signing, right? And that's significant as well because Gerrard obviously adopted the team and Smith. Would he have signed Buendia? Would he have signed Ings? Would he have signed Bailey? Probably not. He's already appearing to be looking a bracket above that even, right? So it's great news for Villa fans because they're suddenly looking at the likes of Dina and Coutinho, which it's fair to say are another level up. I think they're proven, not world class players, but they're by the bracket below. He obviously, you'd think and hope he'd get the best out of Coutinho again, and obviously he's not playing in a Liverpool team. That Liverpool team was extraordinary. It had Salah and Mane, Gerrard at time in previous seasons as well. So Villa can't compete with that Liverpool team of 17-18 perhaps, but they're still a decent team. Like, they're still a team that if they get the likes of Dino and Gerrard can make more signs, they're going to push the top 6, if not this season, certainly next. Coutinho could be if he signs permanently. I think they've got, is it a 33 million? That seems good, doesn't it? I mean, 30 million. If he can turn what he did previously, is a good price, I think, for Coutinho.
I mean, I look at these numbers and I don't think Gerrard's working with like a broken player, like a broken Coutinho. I think he's working. It looks to me like he's working with a player who needs his confidence,
Of course.
restored, but hasn't lost his magic touch in terms of XGI. Like those numbers are still good. If he turns these numbers in for a 7 million mid, and you've got the fixtures on the screen as well.
Yeah.
I mean they're good fixtures. I mean, United and Everton, but then Leeds, Newcastle, Watford, literally the 3 teams you basically want in a row. I think by then we could have a real differential on our hands.
What's the significance one we haven't mentioned is in game week 23, it looks now like Villa will get a double game week. Like 23 will be a double game week for Villa, and they'll either play, I think it's Burnley or Leeds, right? And it looks like the Burnley fixture is going to be most likely. There could actually be more fixtures dropping into that because UEFA or FIFA have given the Premier League permission to schedule matches during the international break. So there could be more. I think some of the Amazon postponements could drop in there as well. So that's something we've got to be wary of. I think there's 2 or 3 games that could drop in. I mean, Ben Crellin saying that Burnley could even have a triple game week, right? And James on Planet FPL saying it could be Villa with a triple game week. So there's lots to come in terms of multiple fixtures, and Villa are going to benefit from that, probably in game week 23. It's too early to go in for him now, though, isn't it? Do you think? He needs some games,
I think
doesn't he?
Yeah, you want to see him kind of settle. I mean, Ramanathan in the chat says, hope he's not another James Rodriguez, which is true, but I think Coutinho is a bit more versatile, I think, and he hasn't had, I mean, the level of injuries that James Rodriguez had. To my knowledge, Coutinho hasn't had, like, a series of bad injuries, has he? He's just been...
He's had some injuries.
Not selected. He's had some, but has it...
I think the difference between the Rodriguez situation and Coutinho's done it in the Premier League already, right? He's coming back to a league he knows well. And, okay, the league might have moved on in the last 2 or 3 seasons in terms of physicality and pace. The pressing game is far more prominent. He'll probably have to play part of that. But Gerrard, again, knows him inside out. He knows what he can and can't do. I don't think that Coutinho will be coming back to the Premier League with any kind of feelings of trepidation, whereas I think, Rodriguez, he would have been... It was an unknown quantity for him, how his talents were going to translate. And he started well, but the physicality of it in the end, fitness issues overcame him, didn't they, really? As we thought, could be a factor. I mean, 7 million is a great price. I mean, it's pitched about right. You got Mount in my table, XGI per 90 of 0.61. Coutinho just above that. Mount 7.5, but he's in a Chelsea team. He's established starter. He's already settled in. Paying 7 million for Coutinho seems absolutely perfect. It's a sweet spot price, I think. And you're absolutely right. From 24 onwards, the fixtures are good. Then they turn a bit 29 when they play West Ham, Arsenal, Wolves, Spurs, Liverpool. That run is tough for Villa. They end the season, though, 35, 36, 37. They'll have double game weeks there, probably, if they haven't used them all up. Norwich, Burnley, Palace are their existing fixtures. That could be a time where Coutinho by then would have settled in. He could be a factor right at the end of our seasons, right?
Absolutely. Do you know how much they paid for Coutinho?
His
Barcelona.
wages? Oh, Barcelona. 90-odd million?
No, way more.
Oh, was it in here? Go on.
They paid 121 million for Coutinho.
I thought it was under 100, right? Yeah.
Well, according to Transfer Market, 121, which, I mean, his current market value is now apparently 16 million, according to that. They could get him for 30, but I mean, getting 120 million. I mean, 120 million was an outrageous price to charge for him at the time, but at the same time, he was a hell of a player. I had him in my side that season alongside Salah, and we talk about consistency. Like every week, I'd get something from both of them. It was amazing, and it was the only way I could really benefit from Liverpool at the time, because Coutinho flew under the radar that season right up until January when they sold him. I had him, and I had a good season that year. I had my best season that year actually, and he was a big part of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about Luca Dean if he goes back to Villa?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting one. I think Luca Dean is one of the league's best left backs on his day. We talked about it last week. You don't stay in the France squad for that time, and not be a quality player. I think he's a huge upgrade on Matt Target as well.
Bit harsh on Matt Target, that I think. I think he's been really solid, and he's actually stepped up to the Premier League surprisingly well. He hasn't done anything wrong, but Dino is a cut above, isn't he?
I think he is. Yeah, I mean, Target hasn't done anything wrong in the sense that he's like fairly dependable, but at the same time, he's not. I mean, the first game of the
Yes,
season when he just got absolutely ruined by
Sarr, yeah.
Sarr.
Yeah, had him on toast, didn't he?
Yeah, I think I mean, Dean isn't the best defensively, but he does offer so much going forward. It's just another great. I just think it's another great signing. It's all these signings are just about attitude. Because if they can get Dean and Coutinho on board and confident and things, they've got two world-class players there.
And Cash right side, Dina left side, great, right?
I know. Yeah,
I mean,
really
it could be really good for FPL managers. This is what we need. We need teams like Villa to be signing this type of player to increase our options. And having Dina back, having Coutinho back, which we didn't expect, will be great for us. And of course, having Chris Wood as a viable option would be amazing, right? Let's look at the Newcastle situation, because it's not only Villa making moves early, right? It's Newcastle for very different reasons. They're more desperate than Tuchel for a left back, aren't they? Newcastle, they are desperate to sign players to try and get themselves out of the situation they're in. And I think the fact that has Chris Wood been confirmed today?
I think it's all but done.
Release clause met of 25 million, which when Burnley put that release clause in, I think they probably felt that was never going to get met. 25 million, Chris. Yeah, all right. We'll agree to that. Yeah, that's all right.
If Barcelona come calling, Chris, we'll let you go. Yeah.
Yeah, if one of the European elite powers come knocking, which is what Newcastle will be in a few years. Yeah, I don't think Chris Wood will be part of Newcastle when they are an elite power somehow. But we're being harsh on him, aren't we? Do you want to talk through some of the data you've got on show here?
Well, first, I genuinely think it's a really, really smart signing from Newcastle. It was funny because I was listening to the radio the other day and they had some Newcastle fans on. They were talking about, potential signings, and a couple mentioned like Tarkowski and, players like Ward-Prowse and Basuma. And one girl was on there and she was completely serious without any hint of irony. Said, I just think we should go all out for Mbappe. I was just like, come on. And now I wonder how she feels now they're getting a Chris Wood.
Well, I think when the takeover was announced, that's the dream, right? And that will become a reality, I imagine, in 3 or 4 seasons' time. But at the moment, you've got to set your sights lower. And whoa, how low can you go? No, come on, we can't do this.
Hey, it's you, not me.
I know, sorry.
So I was on FBref again, which is an amazing resource. I love looking at all these things and looking at the minutes. I mean, his minutes are so consistent. With all the injury problems that Newcastle have got as well with their strikers. To sign a player who's played pretty much every game up front for Burnley for the last 3 seasons is. You can't really put a price on that.
Well, he doesn't get injured, right? And when you've got Callum Wilson and Sam Maximin,
exactly,
you need a player who's going to turn up, right? So
exactly,
that's one thing in his favour, sure.
And what else I noticed interesting about Chris Wood is he posts pretty good numbers. So his XGI per 90 is fairly decent. So 0.51 in 17-18, it dropped to 0.37 in 18-19, rose up again to 0.48 in 19-20, and then up to 0.46 in 2021, and he overperforms that. So he's a striker who you can rely on because he gets involved. His numbers are decent. I mean, you compare this to a lot of other sort of relegation-ish teams, and they don't have a striker posting these kinds of XGI.
Yeah.
Or if they do, like Mope, his performance doesn't match up to the XGI that he does. He underperforms. So he's a reliable player. But what is interesting is this season, his XGI is 0.31 and his goals assists per 90 is 0.2. So it's the first season he's had where he's underperforming on his XGI.
Well, he's probably thinking, when is that release clause going to kick in and I can get out of this place, this happy place that is Turf Moor? Yeah, I don't know why you explain that, really. I think Burnley generally have been in decline, right?
Yeah, but his XGI is the worst that it's been. So, but then he just hasn't been putting the chances away. And 3 goals, I think, for someone who's, he got 14 goals in 19-20, which is an amazing return for a striker. And look at him towards the end of last season. I mean, he finished the season so strongly. And then this season, he just has been poor. He just has been poor.
He's never failed to get less than 10 goals in the last 4 seasons.
It's exactly what you want.
And Newcastle, I mean, it is, every way you look at this, it's a sensible signing, isn't it? We can get him. There's no wrangles. The release clause money's not an issue because we've got money coming out of our ears. he never gets injured. He'll always turn up, and he's got more than 10 goals every season for the last 4 seasons. So if you can get us 5 or 6 goals between now and the end of the season, that's it. We could be okay. FPL asset? No, still not. I mean, we don't like Newcastle strike. We don't even like Callum Wilson when he's fit half the time. So go on. What do you think?
I think he could play a factor in our seasons if we kind of get desperate enough to go there. I think he's going to be the focal point of the attack. He's got Trippier, which is going to add in a bit more creativity.
We'll talk about him in a minute. Yeah,
creative players around him. St. Maximin's going to be back, and Shelvey's there, and almost building a team around Shelvey. And Howe is an attacking manager, so I don't think he's going to be an awful option. I think he should be a better option at Newcastle than he was at Burnley.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
So I expect him to get between 10 and 15 goals.
By the end of the season?
Yeah, I'd say he could get to. I'd say 12. I'd say 11, 12 goals.
Newcastle stay up if he does that.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why they've signed him.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I just don't know whether he'll produce that. I mean, they'd expect him to hit the ground running, right? They want him for Saturday. They want him for the Watford game. It's a crunch game for them, right? Look at it. Look at their fixtures down here. They're entering a period now where up to 28, or even up to 30 even, they've got to win these games, right? The hardest games they've got between 22 and 30 is West Ham away and Chelsea away, right? So they're bonus games. They don't expect points there, I expect. But Watford, Leeds, Everton, Villa, Brentford, Brighton, Palace, right? And 5 of those are at home. They've got to get wins from 3 or 4 of those games, right? That's what they've got to look for. So they needed somebody through the door quickly. He fits the bill, doesn't he? I mean, okay, you haven't. I've been a bit down on him in the show so far, but I've got to admit, everything points to this being a really sensible signing for them. And I think, I do agree. I think he will make a difference. And
the absolute key thing is that he's weakened Burnley.
Yeah, I don't get
that. That is an unbelievable coup, I think, for them.
Well, they've got new owners, right? They're not financially as badly off as they were. They should give Dyche more options anyway, even without this money coming in. So I would expect him to spend, and surely he'll go straight for a striker. And if he's going to spend between 15 and 20 million in the Championship, maybe he's not going to go Championship. Maybe he'll try and find he can't get Origi though, can he, for 15, 20 million? Could he get Origi on loan? There's no way Origi would go to Burnley. No. Well, the thing is, you could leave that name as blank and you could put anyone's name in there and you could say there's no way X would go to Burnley. I mean, Burnley's not an attractive club or proposition for many players, right?
Chris Wood, if he wasn't leaving Burnley, I'd say would go to Burnley because he's the perfect. That's the problem, isn't it? He's literally the perfect Burnley player. Yeah,
but in the past, they've had to. I mean, Dyche has had to work with with players like Rodriguez, Vidra, players who are trying to resurrect their careers. Right? It's not a traditional, location for a player who's looking to develop, right? Cornet is a very good signing, right? He's turned out to be a brilliant signing for them. Can they pull off someone like that again? They need to, right? Otherwise, Burnley are going to be in trouble. And they already are in trouble, I think. I mean, this season.
In the summer, I'd say they'd have a chance of getting someone. But in January, to sign a player who's going to get them, enough goals to stay up.
Yeah, in trouble. Let's talk about Trippier then, because you've got some numbers on him as well. Another former favourite. I mean, I think that what's interesting about Trippier is that his last season was 17-18, I think, wasn't it, for Spurs?
Trippier.
Yeah. And since then, if anything, the wing-back or the full-back role has been taken on further, right? Trippier at the time was an attacking full-back, a full-back who could get us attacking points. He always was when he was at Burnley, of course, right? When he first emerged in Burnley, he had a reputation for a fullback who attacked and supplied good crosses. He was at Man City Academy, I believe, and came through there. Very good pedigree, right? So he was always an attacking fullback. But my point is, since he's been away and now coming back, the definition of an attacking fullback has been moved on by Trent to such a degree now.
No, I know.
The Trippier's coming back, and it's not as exciting as it would have been 3 or 4 seasons ago, because we can't expect him to get to the levels of Trent or even a Reece James, I don't think, right?
No, I mean, it was 18-19 when Trippier was at Spurs and had his best season. He was priced at 6 million at the start.
Wow.
and managed 118 points.
Yeah.
Which is pretty bang average, right? For someone, well, I'd say it's even worse than bang average for a 6 million defender. It's kind of what you expect from a 5 million or maybe a 5.5. 1 goal, 5 assists, and 10 clean sheets. So it's kind of I think it's the clean sheets really that let him down, which you're not going to get at Newcastle. So immediately, if we're thinking about Trippier, it's got to be down to attacking returns. So the Trippier of last season had an XGI of 0.14, which puts him slightly ahead of someone like Tierney around his price bracket, who's got 0.13 this season. Cash 0.12, Lamptey with 0.17. Reguilon though is one of the league's highest with 0.3. So he's got double the expected goal involvement of Trippier in his best season playing for Atletico Madrid, one of the best teams in the world, winning the league, La Liga. So Trippier was a key part of that side, but his XGI was low. Essentially, he wasn't. He wasn't creating numerously good chances, and he's nowhere near what. Trent's something like 0.7 or something for what he does. So he's nowhere near that. Trippier this season, he's made 15 appearances this season. His XGI per 90 is 0.03. So he's not creating anything at the moment, and he's been in and out of the team, but still had 15 appearances, still had time to get forward and try and make things happen, and hasn't done anything. So again, they're not. I wanted to be really excited about Trippier. I wanted to think maybe he could be someone who'd be considered. I think if he was 4-5, he might be someone that we looked at. For 5 million, I mean, you've got Tierney and Cash who play for much better sides, have similar stats. I just can't see any reason why you would go for Trippier.
I want to bring some data up actually, because I was thinking, Matt Ritchie in this table had this is defenders sorted by XGI non-penalty this season. Matt Ritchie is 10th in this table at 4.9, a former winger, turning in great numbers, and yet we've never mentioned him. We've never even considered. So, this is Trippier going in, who's never been a midfielder, never been a winger, who will struggle to probably match Ritchie there on 397.9 minutes per XGI non-penalty. I don't think Trippier will get to that level, and yet we've never mentioned Ritchie. So why would we mention Trippier when he's more expensive?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he might put a decent ball onto the head of Chris Wood once in a while, but are you really going to go there? Probably not.
I mean, set plays, I guess, but Ritchie takes those as well, doesn't he? So unless he's going to get direct free kicks, which he could, I guess, is he going to get a look in on those? Maybe. He's very adept at those, but it's not enough, is it?
I don't think they're going to use Trippier in the same way that he's maybe played at Atletico, with this kind of almost not free role, but he plays very, very advanced, very attacking. I think his experience is going to have to be used to get that back line a little bit more organised. I just can't see Trippier just spending half the game like the other end of the pitch. He's got to be deep and defend well. Well,
they're trying to get.
He can do.
They're trying to get a new back four in, aren't they? They're trying to get Botman in as the fulcrum of that new defence, right? And if we've said before, can they rebuild a defence quick enough to make a difference and save themselves?
Yeah,
I don't know. Right, Botman will be a very, very positive step in the right direction. Trippier already is. But
they need 2 new centre backs and a new left back, and probably a half decent central midfielder to have any chance of having good defensive, and a different manager. If they do all that, then
you're harsh to hell there.
Not defensively, I'm not.
Maybe not. Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, let's talk about something completely different. They used to say there was an article which David Mundy tweeted actually, because it was in his old paper that he used to work for, the Plymouth old paper. And we talked earlier about how the Everton Leicester postponement would have hit people hard, and it did, right? The reaction on Twitter was pretty negative, and in fact, for the last few weeks, maybe longer as well, there has been a palpable feeling of people not switching off from FPL, but definitely taking steps back. And I've got to say, I think this season, when Billy went above me and when Natalie started beating me, Billy, who's 9 years old, Natalie, who's just started playing and, hasn't got any FPL knowledge before this season, when they go above you, I was starting to think, I need to take a few steps back and not take this too seriously, because if I let it get to me, mentally I would have been struggling.
Yeah.
And this article touches on that because what it says, and I read the quote here: a quarter of participants reported in the survey reported mild low mood as a result of playing fantasy football. That low mood included sadness, anger, frustration, tiredness, low self-esteem. I mean, I felt all of those tonight when Bowen had scored in the first few minutes. When playing, researching or thinking about the game. However, this increased to 44% amongst high engagement players. That's you and me and probably everyone listening. And that's what I'm saying. I think that's something I realised when your 9-year-old goes above you, you've got to think, I can't take this too seriously. I can't let that get to me, right? I've just got to take a few steps back. What did you think about the article and what the statements it was saying?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing for me to see because it combines, my psychology PhD background in research and FPL stuff, which, I think it's the first study published that's been looking at this kind of stuff. And I think any research that is investigating mental health is so important. And we've talked about mental health before on the show, and we know that fantasy football forms a part of our identity, right? And maybe more so for content creators like you and I, because if we're struggling, people come on, they see our ranks, they go, "Oh, he's rubbish." Well, not you. You've got free pass to whoever you want, but some of us have to do quite well. So there is that, but the study itself is an excellent study. It's a really well run. It's similar to the ones that I used to do when I was studying. Self-report questionnaires. There's some kind of question marks about the validity of those, but generally speaking, they're easy to do. Did them online, got players in, nice and simple. What annoys me though is the headline doesn't map on to the actual research and the claims that the authors make in the paper. So the key word on the headline that you've got here is mild low mood, right? So the headline is hardcore fantasy football fans are more likely to have worse mental health. Well, they do have, a slight, it is classed as a significant drop in mental health, but it's a 0 to 4 scale they're asking respondents to rate on. And, they're looking at things like anxieties. How often do you have how often have you had anxious feelings in the last 2 weeks? And the general rating for people who don't play much fantasy or low engagement with FPL was 0.27. So we're talking right down the end of scale. It's not at all. 0 is not at all. So you're looking at basically not at all.
That is low, right?
Really low. So for high time playing FPL, it rises to 0.55. So
not a big increase.
So we're still in the realms. But because it's such a small number and it's doubled, that's what causes the significant impact. And this was one of my problems I had with psychology in general and psychological research was that there's going to be so many people that aren't interested in this whatsoever, but I'll carry on, was that you can make quite grandiose claims based on numbers like these, which I don't think map onto the real. This isn't pathological levels of anxiety and depression and low mood. It's a significant increase. It's worth monitoring, but it's not huge numbers. If you look at the effect sizes, which is the magnitude of the effect, these are all in the very small category of a significant effect. So I think the headlines I've seen have gone too far with it. I don't think you can make the claim that investing more time in FPL leads to poor mental health. I think that's going just too far. What we can take from it though is that FPL has an impact on us, and the more we invest in it, the more we're impacted on it. But like we would be with any hobby.
Well, I said that. I got involved in the foolishly. I don't know why I did that. I got involved in the Twitter debate about it, and I said, I think there's some stock in this, but I would argue that when I was a hardcore Forest fan, when I was a season ticket holder, when I followed Forest, I went to home games and I went to some away games. I used to spend money, travel the country. I used to be a season ticket holder under Platt, and I was at my lowest, most miserable as someone in everyday life at that time, because the club I loved was in turmoil, and I could see a slide and into mediocrity under a manager I didn't think had any idea what he was doing in terms of signing and so on. That caused me loads of anxiety, my mental health then was affected hugely by what my club was doing. because I was obsessively invested in that club. I lived in London and travelled up to Nottingham as a season ticket holder, and I went to away games. I spent money on it. I invested my time on it. You know, I didn't have relationships and friendships because I was doing that instead. So that affected me, right? And so I pointed out on Twitter that, well, if you're invested as a football supporter, your club, you're not in control of what those players do on a Saturday, or not on a Saturday these days, Sunday or Monday or whatever. And so you're, again, surrendering control of your kind of investment and your emotional attachment to these individuals on the pitch, and they're going to let you down, right? I guess the difference is, as someone pointed out, with fantasy football, you feel like you have more control than you've actually got. And that's a good point, isn't it? And we're to blame for that, because we kind of do a show where we go, oh, no, you can get better. And, you know, content creators are there to try and help people. And perhaps we do promote the idea that we have more control on their outcome than we do.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, it's that which I think is you feel like you're making bad decisions. And we talk about bad decisions, right? And they are bad decisions, but they're only bad decisions because of the outcome that's happened between them. You know, and often you can make good decisions, have a bad outcome, still beat yourself up. And, you know, that classic thing of look at the outcome, not the decision, which Ross talks about a lot on, you know, on his psychology FPL videos and, you know, in the mind game, I think is really important just to remember. And I think at the period we're at now, it's you've got even less control. And I wonder what the kind of general mental health feeling is in the community at the moment. Because
it's not good, is it? It's not good, it seems.
Yeah, but it's people know they haven't got control. Like, there's one thing having a game week, feeling you're in control, and then having a poor week. But now we kind of know we haven't got control, and we have a poor game week. Is there a difference in how you're affected by it?
It does seem even worse that this COVID situation has come in, and it's blatantly obvious it's out of our control, but that has made us feel worse, almost. It's almost like, we didn't realise it was out of our control before. We didn't realise there was luck involved before, but now this COVID situation has confirmed it. It is all about luck, and it's not all about luck, right? Otherwise, you know, I built a website to try and promote the idea there was skill involved, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's 95% luck. But the COVID situation has underlined the luck element of playing FPL, hasn't it? It's reinforced it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also think it's added in the frustration of not being able to do what we enjoy doing and what we like doing, and FPL very much centres around being able to strategise and make plans.
Yeah.
And so what COVID has done is taken that away from us and taken away one of our key bits of enjoyment from, for a lot of us, one of our main hobbies. And I think I'm trying to play it down a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, it's that, and I think that can also have a big impact on mental health as well, because something you enjoy doing suddenly isn't the same game.
That is true
anymore.
Yeah, that is true. You feel like the ball's being taken away from you, and you can't play anymore. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. Interesting what the article says as well. It says that players who've been playing for a long time, the reason why they've been playing a long time, and this I would include us in this, is because they've developed coping mechanisms to deal with it. And I think there's an element of truth in that. And I talked about earlier when Billy overtook me in the world rankings, I had to call on that to kind of go, oh, hold on a minute, I need to take a step back here. Now, do you think if you'd started playing FPL maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago, and you're now going through this COVID situation, maybe you had a first season without it, you did all right, and then you've gone into the last 2 seasons, it's been up and down because of this roller coaster with COVID. Do you think you would have been would you feel worse about things than if you'd been playing it for 10, 15 years like us?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think the more seasons you play and the more you've invested in it, I think the greater you feel it. I would say that's the case for myself, and that's one of the claims they make. Again, it's mild anxiety, but I think it's 1 in 5 players generally have mild anxiety towards the game, and high engagement players have it goes to 1 in 3. So but again, we're talking mild. We're talking like 0 point numbers again. So, but again, there's indication that we feel it. I think if I just come into the game, I would feel like I've got a free pass for a while to kind of do what I want, feel my way around, and you probably haven't got the people kind of hounding you in the same way that you have. I think what you have an expectation on you when you've played for a certain number of seasons that you're going to be a good player at it.
Yeah.
And you see it in the community, you know, if people have got 6 seasons and every season they're like 500k, they're discredited. It's like, well, you clearly don't know what you're doing.
We're not helping that, right?
No.
Twitter's not helping that. Content creators aren't helping that. We are kind of, again, promoting this idea that you should be achieving, and achieving is this. And, you know, I've probably said 4 or 5 things already tonight, which fits into that bracket, which is bad, perhaps. I mean, have we got a role to play in this idea that people who play fantasy football have a worse mental health? Have we got to do more when we do our content aimed at when we think about that, right? We've got to be careful how we talk and what terminology we use, and when we're promoting top 10k finishes, do we need to be mindful of that? It's tough, isn't it, right? It
is. I think one of the things that I've always been proud of Scout to be associated with, and this isn't a hashtag ad, as I know this has all been going on off this morning, but generally, I've always been proud of the fact that Scout gives voices to lots of different people in the community, whether it's people with amazing finishes like Fabio, who does his brilliant Pro Pundit articles, or it lets, you know, good content creators with poor ranks, Andy North, you know, come on and do stuff.
He's going to hate you for that one. He's beating you, probably. He's beating you, so be careful. Anyway, go on.
Oh yeah, but it's that kind of inclusion, I think, that's really important, and I do think there's definitely a status to having a good rank, and in some ways I get it, because it's human nature to want to listen to people who you perceive to be as like good at the game, but you have to remember that lots of people get other things from FPL that isn't just tied into rank. Like, I would happily listen to 2 people who've got poor rank histories talk about their best stories with FPL. That's what I like. I like the banter, I like the conversation, I like all that kind of stuff,
because you connect to the experiences they're having. Exactly. You don't care what rank they are or what's happened to them that week or whatever. It's more the emotional tie-in that they've got with the game. You can empathise with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting subject. The article was really interesting, but I do argue, like I said, any hobby that you invest in, whether it be time, money, whatever, if you haven't got full control over that, I mean, this could be anything. You know, like if you're into golf and you go and play a round of golf and the weather's bad, you're going to feel anxious and mentally low because my round was ruined by the weather. You know, there's a lot of hobbies that you have to invest in, and I think if you're an obsessive nature, and Christ, I really am, right? I kind of fit that supremely. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to invest in it to the fullest, and then there's always opportunity to be disappointed and suffer anxiety. So I do think that, you know, fantasy football is just one of many hobbies where you could feel that.
Absolutely, and I think, because I know people look at the chat, and it was interesting, because I went on BBC Essex the other day, and I was talking simply. I know, it's in my hometown.
What's going on there? Okay,
they sent an email and said, "Have you seen this study? Do you want to come on it?" So I thought I'd go on and you know.
You'll be playing left back for Chelsea next this week, yeah.
But the guy I was on had no idea about fantasy football whatsoever.
Right, that's always great, isn't it? That
yeah. And he just couldn't believe that people could have it could ruin their day if they have a bad game week. And I know that a lot of people would say, and there's people in the chat now saying, you know, if it's affecting you, then, you know, grow up, like, get over it. It's only a game. It's only this. But it is more than that to a lot of people. It's been a crutch for people during COVID.
Yeah.
It's, you know, there's now jobs based off it. Like you had, and I've got now. You know, there's people with patrons out there, and you can say what you want about this. There's people who rely on it, and also who get a lot from it in terms of the community that is so unique with FPL that I can't find another community quite like the FPL one. It's amazing. It's awful at times. Totally. It's brilliant at times. It's got everything going for it, and I think it's very easy to say just let it go, but it's not always easy to do that.
No, I totally agree. It's something that's going to go on and on. There'll be more studies as well, I'm sure. And, you know, do you like the headline there? Someone should write a book about something like that, and someone should really focus on it. But, you know, someone will do that one day, won't they? Some young whippersnapper out there who... did you see the outcry about him being just 24? Old Ross out there this week.
I mean, I can't believe he's 24.
No, I can't believe he's 24. Yeah, he's so obviously very intelligent man, and the book doesn't read like a book from a 24-year-old who's, you know, that young and inexperienced in life. He's obviously got a very good handle on things. And that's what surprised me. Don't know the way he looks. Just having met him and read his book, it's like, only 24. It's crazy.
He's wise beyond his. I mean, I still can't believe him at first, just slotting those balls into those
He's got a good left foot.
Jesus.
No, I hope he's listening tonight anyway, and hopefully, we rambled on there about that, but it is interesting, and hopefully Ross is not the only one who got something from that discussion anyway. Let's go back to our teams, shall we, and look at the situation we're in.
Oh, do we have to?
Yeah, I know, talk about mentally low.
God.
Right, let's bring up your team first of all. Actually, should we do the predictions first? Yes, let's do the predictions first.
That's a bit more fun.
Let's level it out, a bit more fun, yeah. We haven't got the latest from FPL Pot Noodle, but we'll have that next week. So we'll just go for our predictions for Game Week 22 for now. I know. I fancy Palace. One thing about the FA Cup games, which we haven't talked about yet, Michael Elise, right? Michael Elise, and we've said before about our stats, right? Let's bring up our player stats actually while we're there. Any excuse to bring up the player stats. Michael Elise has been knocking around these for some time. Where is he? Number 26 on this, right? Minutes per XGI non-penalty, 181.5. He's been higher than that. I think if we look at the last 6, he's probably even higher. Where is he on here? Can we see him on here? No, I can't. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm sure he's there somewhere. But basically, Elise has been a name that has appeared in these tables quite often, right? He's been another Martinelli of a few seasons back, another Foden of a few seasons back. He's been a player that we were like, when he gets starts, this player could be something special. In the FA Cup against Reading, against Millwall, sorry, he looked incredible, I thought, playing that wing role. IU's away at the African Cup of Nations, Zaha's away, Elise given his chance. Surely only a matter of time before he starts for Palace in the league. He just looks fantastic. And he's got to be a prospect for us, hasn't he, when he does?
Yeah.
I know it's Palace and you don't like to admit it.
Can we? Yeah, I mean, I would have said the same about Martinelli, but I mean, he hasn't played 90 minutes.
No.
I don't think he's played 90 minutes at all for Palace.
How many starts has he had for Palace? Maybe 1 or 2? Not even that, I don't think, the Premier League. So he hasn't yet been given that opportunity, but it's there, isn't it? The raw talent's there.
Oh, the raw talent is not in question. It's just FPL comes down to consistency. And can he put in those kind of performances consistently? I don't know.
Well, that's it. At the age he's 20 years old, so you wouldn't expect he could. But all I'm saying is, I think
he's
Palace,
one to watch.
Palace have got an outstanding player there. And I think we could have an outstanding FPL asset there as well, because he's going to be underpriced next season. And you've got to think next season could be his breakthrough year, right? I think it's only a matter of time before he gets into that team. And I think once he's in, consistency's right. That's the key. If he can find that, I think he's going to be great for us, right? A Palace player we can rely on rather than a Zaha, right?
I think it's hard this season because of Gallagher's form to think, because Gallagher's been doing it all season. I know he's been out for a while, but I can't see him dropping off enough for me to consider Elise. It's going to be if I was ever going to be considering a Palace player, I can't see myself going for
I think by the end of the season he might well have emerged, and then hopefully not enough where FPL price him too far up. But I think next season he's going to be, this season, every season we go in and think there's always like a 5 or 6 million player. We go, everyone's going to get him. Everyone's going to get him because he's going to be 5.5 or 6 million. Elise could be that player next season if he ends strongly. What I saw in that cup game was a player who's quite special and adjusting. He just needs the minutes now. And I think he will play against Brighton, and I think he'll be the difference. And I think
he's going to be your Martinelli, Mark. He's going to be your Martinelli.
Yeah, I think so. That's exactly. You're going 1-0 the other way, though. You fancy yourself, do you?
I don't know if this is more hope. I mean, we got a last-minute equaliser against them early in the season, which was a very good moment.
Yeah.
I think I've been impressed with Brighton in the games that I've seen. I didn't fancy them against Chelsea, and they pulled off a last-minute goal in that game as well. Generally been playing well and picking up points, which is good in the last few games particularly. And Palace have been a bit leaky, which again is surprising given the numbers that they've put in. Yeah,
I mean, I think their defensive numbers have dropped a bit. I still watch games and think they don't concede too many good chances. And I think Brighton need good chances to score. That's the thing. So I don't see many goals either way. I just think Palace have got the better cutting edge. I think defences will be on top, but I think...
Well, you can say about any team playing us.
That's true. Very true. But yeah, I think I was just excited by them. Eze's back now. Gallagher's fit again and he looked sharp. They've they've got Edouard and Benteke. One of them normally is playing well. They can chop and change and find the one that can do it. I think that they're going to beat you, sadly. I'm going 1-0. Man City, Chelsea. What you gone there? 2-1 Man City. I've gone 1-1. I think this will be... I don't know how City will approach this. They don't need to win it. I don't think they'll go... I don't think they'll go all out attack. I think they'll be very mindful of being caught on the break. I think it'll be quite a low key affair, to be honest. So I've gone 1-1, but you see City just unstoppable, right?
Well, you made a very good point earlier about Chelsea's bench, which was frightening.
Yeah.
So they've clearly got a lot of players back, and they should be. I think Kante was on the bench.
He was.
Was he? So
Havertz,
obviously,
Alonso.
Yeah. So I mean,
Loftus-Cheek.
Kante just makes an absolutely huge Loftus-Cheek. Magic Bean himself.
Yeah.
But I can't just look past City at the moment against anyone. I just think they're gonna, they're just so powerful all across the pitch, and there's no one in the league I would fancy to get a point off them at the moment. They're too strong.
Okay. Burnley, Leicester. You've gone 2-1 to Leicester. I've gone a 0-0 here.
A 0-0?
I have. I don't see where the goals are going to come from. If Daka is fit, maybe he could be the cutting edge for Leicester. But otherwise, they're going to play Barnes up front? They're going to play Perez, maybe? I mean, they're reliant on Maddison, which is why he's catching the eye with the double game week and the free hit. I understand that. But, yeah...
I think they could play Barnes or Lookman up front and create enough chances to get a couple of goals against Burnley.
Yeah, Burnley are leaking chances, but I just think it's cutting edge. I'm going 0-0. You've gone 2-1. Newcastle, Watford, you've gone 2-1. Newcastle, I've gone 2-2. Goals, right?
We've gone different in every game
so far, yeah. Neither defence. You can't back either defence, can you, in this game?
Yeah, it's hard giving Newcastle a win, given that Cambridge performance when they had a very strong team out.
Yeah.
But Watford are not good. I think there's probably goals in it. I think there's definitely goals for each side. It's just which one can probably score the most in this one.
I hope it's a good game, because I'm going to go in probably with Dennis, I reckon. You've got King. So, I hope there are goals in that. Norwich, Everton, we've agreed on this one. 1-0, Everton. I mean, Norwich just can't score goals.
8 goals all season.
Everton are obviously trying to... They've got players back. Right? They probably will end the season okay and they'll be fine. I don't think they're going to get near the top 6 finish, but I think they'll be okay, and Rafa will survive and get through. And I think they will nick this 1-0. Maybe Calvert-Lewin will be playing fit and get a return for all those who invested in him for the double game week, because those guys probably deserve it, the luck they had with him. Wolves, Southampton, you've gone 1-0, I've gone 2-0. I don't want to back against Southampton. I was really impressed with them last night, but the Wolves' defence looks so well drilled. Southampton, they've got Broher, they've got Ward-Prowse, Adams come back and scored. I don't know if it's enough to break down that Wolves' defence, though.
Wolves just 1-0. Whenever they're playing someone who I think they can beat, it's just a 1-0. They're so good defensively. It's unbelievable. And the performance against United, I mean, United were terrible, don't get me wrong, but Wolves were so good in that game. We saw the best of both sides. We saw the defensive side. We finally saw them clicking into gear, attacking-wise as well, and they should have won by more.
Yeah, I've one player who's catching the eye for Wolves, Podence, who is a lovely little player, really playing well at the moment. He's... I don't know, when he's on form, it really shows up. It's just the way he plays on the pitch, the amount of energy, he demands the ball, he's very sprightly, very, very busy, ex-lively, effectively. And I think he could be the difference here, because in the last few games, he's looked really sharp. Villa United, difference of opinion
quickly,
here. Go on.
Massive for Wolves, though, they're getting Neto back soon.
Oh, is he nearing fitness? Well, that's quite exciting.
Yep.
That really is.
It depends, obviously, how he comes back after his injury, but he could be someone that factors, I think.
That's why they're letting Troy go, I guess, because they do end up selling Troy, because Neto has got to be a starter. So, yeah, he could be a factor again, couldn't he? For us and Wolves.
1 assist all season, Troy.
Yeah.
No goals.
Villa, Man United. You've gone a Villa win. I've gone United to nick it. I don't know why I've gone United to nick it. I really don't. I don't know. It's Man United, isn't it? It's like, it's Ronaldo. It's like, I can't get used to the fact that United are dreadful, but they pretty much are at the moment, and have been for a while.
I mean, I just saw Villa in that match against them, and like I said, I couldn't believe the quality of chances they had, how quickly they moved the ball. They've got a style identity. Gerrard has come in; he's had such a massive impact. Complete opposite of Ranić. He's done nothing for United so far. And if United go into that game playing like they did, they will lose, guaranteed. So it's at Villa Park. I just fancy him to get the win here.
Yeah, I can't question your logic. I don't know why I've gone 2-1 United. I don't know what was going through my head at that point, but I guess difference of opinion would be good. We don't differ on this one. Liverpool 3, Brentford 0. I've gone 4-0. I mean, we don't give Brentford and poor Ethan Pennick much chance here, rather. What I saw against Southampton was a defence that was disjointed. It had Aya back, right? He was a good player. I just don't know what it is. I mean, they just don't look as organised as they were in early season, and they're conceding chances. I mean, Southampton have never scored. I don't think they've scored more than 2 goals at home this season until that game. First time they scored 4 this season, I think. And it's against Brentford. So you've got to think, what a Liverpool do. Even without Mane and Salah, I think, will find a way of getting goals. And I don't think you can argue with the result or the scorelines there. West Ham Leeds, you've gone 2-1, I've gone 3-1. West Ham just find a way, don't they?
Yeah, they're so good. They really are. I'd love for them to get top 4. I was a bit disappointed with Big Sam. Chatted to Big Sam on behalf of fan team.
I was hoping you weren't going to mention that, but yeah.
Oh, really? What, talking to Big Sam? Are you jealous?
No, not at all. Far from it. But yeah, I know there's a lot of controversy about it, but yeah.
Well, not really. Just the usual. No, but it was fun. But one of the questions they asked him was, who does he think is going to get top 4? And I was so sure he was going to say West Ham. I thought he'd be really, he's a good friends with David Moyes. I thought he'd back him, and he went for Spurs, which I thought was very boring. West Ham are in the top 4 now. I'd love it if they stayed there.
Fishing for a job, maybe. Don't know.
Maybe.
Spurs, Arsenal. I've got 1-0 Spurs. Don't know why. I just think they'll find a way here. Arsenal disappointed me at Forest. And the thing is, Arsenal away from home, in big games in particular, just lack a bit of a leader. They, Smith Rowe gave them that. I don't think he's fit yet. And Smith Rowe's not experienced enough to lead that team. I just think that could be again. I think it'll be a kind of low-profile game, not much goal-mouth action. I mean, Spurs are going to miss Son. Moura and Kane were... I've heard tonight Moura played well, but Kane didn't really contribute too much. I haven't seen the game, but that's what I've picked up. Arsenal, so disappointing. I just think 0-0 and then Spurs get a lucky goal and they nick it. But you've gone 2-2. You think goals are plenty. Where are they going to come from?
I really struggled with this one. I'm not even going to say my classic line of either team could win it. I did struggle. Spurs have been so poor, and Arsenal have been really good, but then were poor in the cup with a strong side. Spurs at home, I think, gives them. I think if it was at the Emirates, I'd back Arsenal because it's Spurs. I just went for a draw.
Yeah, Arsenal away from home I found wanting at times. That Liverpool game, they lost. Was it 4-0 and just disappeared for the second half. A strange team away from home. Burnley, Watford, we've both gone 2-1. I don't think we need to dwell on that too much. I think there's logic behind that. But that will put Burnley in trouble if that does ring true. Yeah. I do think just Watford have got 2 more up front, more of a cutting edge. And neither defence are convincing, but I think Watford will win it by the odd goal. Brighton Chelsea, you've gone 2-1 to Chelsea, I've gone 1-1. Don't fancy you there?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't fancy Brighton's chances in the last game. Obviously, got the last minute equaliser. I just think, given what I saw from Chelsea today, having all those players back, it's going to be a big ask, I think, for Brighton to get something from that game. And it's quite soon after the Palace game as well. There isn't a huge amount of rest time.
Yeah, that's true.
For all of us, and yeah, I think Chelsea's squad will just win out in that.
Lamptey against his former club, though. I'll have a point to prove.
Lamptey v Alonso. Come on. Round 2.
It's a total mismatch. Leicester Spurs away win. We've both gone away win. I've gone by the 1-0. I don't back Leicester to score a single goal ever again, and you've gone the 3-1 Spurs.
I went 3-1
on that basis. You've got to fancy Kane for goals against Leicester again, right?
15 goals in 11 appearances against Leicester. Kane's got I'm really worried about not having him.
Yeah.
In these two games, I know he's off form and Spurs aren't that good, but I would be captaining Kane any day if I could pick.
And then Brentford Man United, to round it off, I've gone 3-1 United, and you've gone 2-1. And Brentford, like Burnley, are plummeting and in trouble, I think.
So you've gone double Spurs clean sheet.
I have, because I've got a Spurs defender.
Well, maybe.
I have, well, mate, yeah. Yeah. No, I do. Well, defensively, they're strong, right? I mean, do you want me to bring out the data? Do you want me to do that? There they are, second over the last 4 defensively. Only second to Arsenal. I mean, one big chance they've conceded in the last 4 games. Yeah, the fixtures have been good, but there's no question they've improved defensively, right? So it's on that basis, really.
But then you watch them against Chelsea and you see like what Sanchez is doing. Yeah, they've got mistakes in them. But
yeah, they have. Yeah, but they're playing Leicester, who don't have a recognised striker unless Daka is fit, and they're playing. What's the first game? Arsenal, yeah, who were so disappointing. And it's a local derby, and I just see that as being a really edgy affair rather than a free-flowing game with lots of goals. So,
regular captain for you then.
If it turns up. Let's talk about captains, shall we? The captain matrix. Difficult to do this because there's going to be double game week fixtures dropping in. And I've put in game week 23 the possibility of Watkins being our captain for Everton away, Burnley at home, right? That could be a strong possibility if the speculation is going to manifest, it's going to come true. Otherwise, we'd be looking at Jota away at Palace or Trent away at Palace, unless Salah's back for that, which I don't think can be the case. I think they've lost their opening game, but they are still expected to qualify, so I don't think there's a possibility Salah will be back. We have got other options in 23, Foden, Cancelo at Southampton, Martinelli at home to Burnley. And if you really want to, you could go Ronaldo at home to West Ham, although arguably you might want to go Antonio away to Man United.
Yeah, I know.
Or Bowen away to Man United. So, 23 could be interesting if the Villa double game week does drop in there. Then in 24, and then from that point on, you kind of need Salah, because he's got Leicester at home in 24, Burnley away in 25, and in 26 he could have that double that we mentioned earlier in the show, which could be Norwich and Leeds, right? So we've got to make plans for Salah for 24, right? What are you thinking there? I guess we're seeing the Son injury is quite handy in that respect now, right?
I guess so. I mean, we're all going to sell him, aren't we? It's just, are we going to see people selling him and spreading the funds around too much? You've got to have an exit plan for Salah. I guess Ronaldo is, within that. But then Ronaldo's got Burnley in that 24 game.
Yes.
I'm not sure I want to be selling him.
I mean,
we've already seen him get 2 goals against Burnley.
24, Salah's got Leicester, but if you look at the alternatives, the differentials in this table, you've got Kane, Southampton, Son versus Southampton if Son's back, Bowen at home to Watford. I mean, Bowen, you talk about consistency. There are fewer better players this season than Bowen in terms of consistent returns. Obviously, Salah has won. I think if we look at the number of games that Bowen has returned in, he's probably right up there, I would have thought. Jota at home to Leicester if you haven't got Salah. Yeah, and like you say, you can go Ronaldo or even Foden and Cancelo at home to Brentford. Lots of options in 24, right? So if you don't have a plan to get Salah back immediately, you've got a captain, probably, haven't you?
It's going to be that one, isn't it? Where it goes, I can make it one more week without Salah.
This is it.
I can make it one more week.
You look at that and you think you can, right?
And then he goes into Burnley and Norwich, and you haven't got Salah already planned. It's
you've got to have him. I mean, Burnley away is normally a fixture Klopp rotates for, and he normally rests players. He rests somebody in that game, one of the front 3. I don't think it'd be Salah. It depends how many games he actually plays in AFCON, right? When he comes back, what his recovery is like from that. So that's something to look for, because I've always looked for that Burnley away fixture, because I've always looked and they've always gone either Mane or Salah or Firmino benched. He's always done that. So I'm expecting something like that in that game.
Well, Salah had his one of 2 blanks against Burnley as well earlier in the season, didn't he?
He did. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's the message there is we've got to make plans for Salah really quickly. But this week, it's all about double game weekers, of course. You could go Jota at home to Brentford or even Trent at home to Brentford. But I think the smart money is going to be on either Kane or Ronaldo. Without diving into the data, what's your gut telling you on those 2? If you had chance to get either, which would you go with?
What, Kane or Ronaldo?
For captain.
Kane.
Would you?
Kane. without a second thought. Yeah, I mean, I think we're obviously Ronaldo missed out as well in the cup. Was told to have a bit of muscle tightness, I think it was, which is probably nothing, and I'm sure he'll be fine to start. But again, it's just another. I just think Kane, of those two games, two of the clubs he loves to score against the most, and Kane is very. There's these record things I don't always hold a lot of credence in, but Kane strikes me as the kind of player who knows that when he plays in a North London derby or when he plays against Leicester, I just think he will be someone who gets that extra lift. So, but that interview I saw of him when he had like 20 of his like own shirts like in his room. He likes records. He likes being the kind of focus. He's obsessive, yeah. He's obsessive, and this kind of thing will feed into that. I think these two games, which might be absolute nonsense, but I really fancy him in these.
The only thing that makes me lean towards Ronaldo slightly is the Brentford game, and I think that depends what kind of a game that is. How difficult will Brentford make that for United? Earlier in the season, you look at them against big teams, they made it difficult for all the big teams, but they still conceded chances. They had that goal fest against Liverpool, of course. So I do think there's something in that Brentford game. What can Ronaldo get at Villa? I don't know if there's much in that. I have backed United to win, though. So I'm still with Ronaldo, I think, just because Kane over your favourite child. I know, because Kane has been so lethargic at times, and I still haven't seen him snap out of it. He looked good when he came on in the FA Cup, actually. He looked sharp, but I don't know. I think I would probably trust Ronaldo more, even though I would reluctantly captain Ronaldo this week. I think it is the sensible choice, even over Kane. But if I was free hitting, I would, in the spirit of the free hit, go with Kane. I think, but I'd see it as a bit of a gamble over Ronaldo.
Interesting. Yeah. The Brentford game is one of the nicest fixtures in the double game week. So when you have two games like that, you almost kind of see the first game, as a bonus. So if he gets anything against Villa, like an assist, it's same with Bowen, right?
Yeah.
We got something in that Palace game which we thought was not the main game, and then you want a big thing from the Norwich game, and we got both. Whereas I think Kane's, you'd expect it to be a bit more split out because Leicester got a 1-0 against Liverpool only a few weeks ago. So they can do it. Yeah.
For this season, for the opponent's data here, I paired the pairing. I put the pairings together, and then summed up the data. And if you look at Ronaldo's fixtures, Villa, Brentford, over the season, those two defences are pretty strong. Really, only the Man City Brighton combination, which is faced by Chelsea, is tighter, if you like, in terms of the data than the Villa-Brentford combination for Ronaldo over the season. But if you look at the last 4 matches that those two teams have faced, Villa and Brentford are slightly higher up. Only Newcastle-Burnley is the better combination, which is the one that Watford will face. So actually, using recent data, mainly skewed by Brentford's performances recently, the Villa-Brentford pairing isn't that bad, and it's actually better. It's actually better than Arsenal and Leicester, Burnley and Spurs, and obviously City and Brighton. Newcastle and Burnley is if you want your player to get you goals, that's the pairing to go for. But can we rely on King and Dennis? Would you look at them as a captaincy option?
Going against a premium option is
It
tough.
shouldn't be low. We said that we shouldn't look at price, should we?
I know, and we see with the thing is though, I can understand going against it with someone like Bowen, who's playing for like definitely a top 6 side, maybe even a top 4 side coming in the season, but captaining a player right down at the bottom end of the table, I'm not sure if Watford lost both of those games, I wouldn't be to 0. I wouldn't be that surprised.
Right.
I'm expecting them to beat Burnley, but also if Burnley got a 1-0, I'd be like, well, yeah, they're both.
I think, we talk about game weeks where you can seek a differential and try and get a rank hike. And I actually think this double game week could be one of them, because I don't think I'm totally convinced about Kane and Ronaldo at all. And if I felt brave, if the wind was in a certain direction, I might go my Watford attacker, because I do think King and Dennis will get at least one return out of these 2 games, and they could easily get more. And Ronaldo and Kane, the names are prestigious, And we should, almost when you mention them, you think, well, why would you bet against those two? But actually, when you look at the reality recently, they're really flattering to deceive. So I think there is opportunity here if you can be brave enough to go with a Watford attacker. But I don't think I will.
Well, I think with Leicester as well. I think if you could tell me that both those games for Leicester will be on, I would seriously consider Maddison.
Would you?
Yeah, I would, because I'm United. It would be scary going into that Brentford game not having Ronaldo captain, but also United could not turn up to that. Whereas that Burnley game is the best, I think, of all the fixtures, and Leicester are a half decent side.
Yeah. Okay. But it depends on fitness of Maddison as well. That's the other thing.
He played the cup.
Yeah, he's back and he should play both games, but he can break down, and they're going to have to rely on him a lot, right? He's not going to get taken off after an hour in one of the games to be preserved for the next one. He's probably going to have to play the 90 in both, right? So I
was surprised with how much he played over the Christmas period. I mean, they kind of had to play him, so they didn't have anyone else, but yeah, they did.
Okay, let's look at our teams then and decide what we're going to do. This is your team as it stands now, right? This is with the Son injury. You've got flags everywhere. It's lit up like a Christmas tree, as they said in the Scout cast today. So you've got flags on Trent, Son, Ronaldo, Livramento and Foden. Do you want to, for the podcast listeners, talk through the team?
Yeah, I've got De Gea in goal, which is fine. Trent, who's back in training, has been confirmed, so it looks like he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Cancelo and Pinnock, who I don't want to play, but he's there. Then Martinelli, Son, Bowen, Jota. Ronaldo's my captain, Antonio and King. And then Ramsdale, Johnson, Livramento and Foden. So I have Pinnock, Johnson and Livramento as my three defenders at the moment, which is ridiculous. So I've got to get rid of one of them. And it's between Royale and Lamptey, who I'm going to bring in. I'm leaning towards Lamptey, but the fact I'm going to have to play this guy for a little while means that I might switch it to Royale, and also there's a bit of a question mark over Lamptey. Will he play both games with 4 days, seeing as he's still being managed? So maybe Royale is the better pick, but I don't know. I'm not as confident with the Spurs defence as you are.
So this could be what you have, right? Is what you're thinking. Either going to be Lamptey in there with the two fixtures. Yeah. Definitely going to be Maddison.
If the game looks like it's going to be going ahead before the deadline, then I'll go for Maddison. If there's still some doubts around it, I don't really know what I'm going to do. I will probably just play Martinelli and just get Lamptey in and keep Son and deal with it later, because there's no one I want. I mean, maybe Fernandes could be an option and a placeholder for Salah, but I don't know, can I afford Son to...
I had a look at it. I can't afford. I mean, I had a look at Fernandes in a free hit team and I struggled to put it together. I couldn't do it. Not if I want Ronaldo and Kane.
I can. So I could do Son to Fernandes, which I guess I would do if there's any doubts about the Leicester match.
That's what you do. Would you go Bruno? Right?
I mean, I guess so, but it's reluctant. It's very, very reluctant. It's just an absence of other options that I consider. If that Leicester game is in doubt, I'm not going Mora. Who else is there?
Let's bring up the free hit team, because you're not going to do this, I take it. But if you were, this is what you would go with if you want to go through that again for the podcast. So
De Gea in goal, Trent, Lamptey and Alonso, Maddison, Mount, Bowen, Jota, Ronaldo, Kane captain, and Dennis. And then a bench of Sanchez, Emerson, Lookman and Johnson, just because I've got loads of money in the bank and I don't really know what to do with it. But I think that's maybe as kind of strong as it gets. I mean, you could look to up one of Mount or Maddison maybe to Fernandes, but I'm really not feeling that Fernandes move. I think that's just so you're just trying to strike lucky, just hope that he just hits something. But there's been no evidence that he's back. I agree with that, but I think that's what you can do with the free hit. Right, the free hit is about one week wonders, right? I know it's 2 games, but one game week wonders, right? So you can go for that player that others will scoff at and go, because there's no doubt that obviously in any given game week, a player can return for you, and Bruno's pedigree is outstanding, right? So he could be fantastic, right? You could just hit that game week where he gets a double figure return. But yeah, I get it. I get the reaction to it. It's tricky because like someone like Mount, for example, under normal circumstances, I'd say without the free hit, you'd pick Mount over Fernandes every day. But then, like I said, he's got the Tottenham and then 2 blanks, so
Yeah.
he's not a long-term hold either. There's no players who I want for like quite a prolonged period. So maybe Fernandes is the best of
and this is what you got to do if you're not going to use the free hit with your transfers. You've got to look at game week 23, haven't you? Right? You've got to look at what it means to own that player. And if you go Mount, they've got 2 blanks, right?
Yep.
And the same with Arsenal players. So, I mean, one thing about Maddison, I think he comes out of it with Brighton, doesn't he, in 23, which isn't bad. So, you know, if you make that move, you've got a player with a fairly good fixture to follow. So, I mean, that's what it's about, right? With the free hit, you can go with someone like Bruno because they're going to be gone the next week. So you're not going to free hit them.
I don't think so. Right. I don't think so. I don't think this team is that good. The only player in this team that I would maybe consider doing it for would be the Kane captaincy. But I think Spurs have not impressed me enough over the last couple of weeks to make me think he's essential. And Son being out, don't forget, does massively impact Kane because of the partnership they've got.
Yep. Well, this is what I've got at the moment. I would go Gaeta, Alonso, Trent, Cancelo, Reguilon, Martinelli, Son, Bowen, Jota, Ronaldo, Antonio, and I'd have a bench of Diop, Gundogan, and Broja.
You've still got Gundogan.
Yeah, I don't think Gundogan will start. If I knew if there was a good chance Gundogan would start, I'd probably play him over Martinelli maybe. Son, I've obviously got to get rid of, and I probably want to take a hit for another double game week player. Do I want a free hit this team? That's the question. If I know for sure Reguilon is out, it then becomes tempting, I think. I'll show you what I put together with the free hit. That would be De Gea, Trent, Alonso, Royale over Reguilon for the certainty of start. Trossard, Moura, Maddison, Jota, Ronaldo, Kane, Dennis. Similar to yours, 3-4-3. I think we'll see 3-4-3 across the board with the free hit. Maybe that's not right, but I think that'll be the most popular. And, you know, I've gone Trossard in midfield. It could be one of you. went Mount. I am a big fan of Moura. I unlike you, I mean, I'm obviously led a lot by data. I'm Analytics FC perhaps more than the Grass FC. And if we look at the player data over the last six game weeks, Moura's right at the top, 99.5 XGI on penalty, minutes per XGI non-penalty. Sorry, I struggle with that every week. He is top for that, right? So he's been outstanding recently under Conte. So I look at that and think there's got to be something in it. I think he played well tonight as well. So for me, in the free hit, Moore would come in. And if I wasn't free hitting, which I probably won't, this is what I do. I take a -4. That's not my team. That's your team, sorry. I wonder where it is. I'll take a -4 and it will be Moore in for Son and Dennis in for Broja. And Broja's a bad... I don't really want to sell Broja. I want him back. He's probably going to be the move. I'd sell Ronaldo to Broja and then go back to Salah in midfield with that money. So Broja will come back, but I think it makes sense to get rid of Broja because he's got Wolves away in 23. Then he's got home to City, I think. So the fixture, well, he's got Wolves away in 22 and then he's got home to City. So he's got 2 fixtures. I don't want to play him. So it makes sense to do a short-term move to Dennis. And then Moura in for Son. Yeah, I'm on board with Moura. I think the data shows that he's showing up. He's producing his best numbers ever in a Spurs shirt. Arsenal, Leicester, I don't know if there's goals in that game. He played up front in a 2 tonight. I think he plays both games. That's enough for me. I think that's worth the punt. But you're not a fan then? You're ignoring the data.
I mean, the pros are that, you know, there's been some concerns around his minute, especially if they go to a, you know, 2 up top or whether they play the 3. And he's almost certainly going to play now because he's going to kind of replace Son. He played up top in the cup game as well, so you might have that kind of out of position thing. The stats are good. He got 17 points against Palace. I just don't like him FPL wise, and he is a Conte type player. Like, he's a workhorse, works really hard. I think he's going to be a bit of a favourite under Conte, especially going forward. But he's got like 2 goals in how many starts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 goals in 6 starts. 2 and then no goals in times he's come off the bench. And Spurs aren't that good, and they've just lost their best player.
No, I totally get it. I'm just going with the data, going with the fact that Mora will be my place. I mean, Salah will come in for Mora, right? So I won't keep him beyond this double game. I might keep him into 23 if I've got other things I want to do. But I want to get Foden back in, right? So Gundogan to Foden might be the transfer, or it could be Mora to Foden, right? And I have 2 City players if I think Gundogan's going to start because they're at Southampton, right? So Mora's not sticking around. He's not a long-term in. This is purely for this double game week. I'm spending 4 points on him, but I think I can hope to get 2 of them back because he'll play both games, and I hope there's an attacking return there. It's a bit risky, but I'm willing to take it on the basis that the data's outstanding, and he's looked good when he's on the pitch. He looked good against Morecambe, in the minutes he had, and I think he was good tonight.
Sorry,
there we go. Look good against Morecambe.
Look good against Morecambe. Yeah.
Eric.
I mean, I like the idea of playing Martinelli and keeping the 4 points.
Yeah, I know, but Martinelli, I mean, has he got out of Jed Spence's pocket yet? I'm not sure he has.
Once you're in there, you never get out.
He's got deep pockets. But I know that's a tight call, but I just like Moore. I really like. I think it's any excuse to get him in. Really, I don't know if it's a good decision. I'm going with it on the basis of data. So I think this is what I'll do. But Reguilon's the pivot. Right? If Reguilon's not going to turn up, I'm almost on that tipping point to the free hit. Almost. Yeah. What would you do in my shoes?
Because the other one as well is your goalkeeper, right?
Yeah.
As well, because
I haven't got De Gea.
Got no De Gea or Lloris. If Reguilon is a problem, I mean, you could take another -4 and get in Emerson.
Worth it. Yeah, but then if Reguilon turns up for one of the games.
If we get any news that Reguilon's out, I would play Martinelli, take a -4 and do Dennis and Emerson in for Reguilon and not bother with Mora. I would. I don't think I'd free hit. I just don't think this is the week to free hit. I just can't see enough.
When you say Emerson, you mean Royale, basically.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Not the Chelsea defender who's not coming back.
Well, is he? Some people call Emerson, some people Royale. He's Emerson
Royale.
on them.
You put him as Emerson on, and I put him as Emerson on the graphic. I thought, what's he talking about, Emerson? I did email him, and
Well, he's Emerson Royale on FPL. He's Emerson Royale on FPL.
But in commentary, they referred to him as Royale. What are you doing here? But anyway, it's fine. I'll let you have it.
Maybe I was on first name terms with him.
Maybe that's it. But I thought, what's he doing? Why is the ex-Chelsea player on his team? But yeah, it's such a difficult one. I hopefully we'll hear something, right? Hopefully we'll hear something on Reguilon, and I'll stick with this. I don't know if it's worth playing because I think the free hit, we talked about it. 27, I might need it, probably will, because I want Salah back for 26. I'll take 3 Liverpool and probably 2 Arsenal into 27. That's 5 players out. How am I going to field a team? I'm not going to sell any of those players. I'm not going to sell Ramsdale. I'm not going to want to sell Martinelli. And my 3 Liverpool players, unless I sell Jota, who might be at risk at that point, maybe. But I think a free hit would be handy for that, particularly if there's doubles in that week as well, which there could be, apparently. So basically, don't rule out a double in any game week at the moment. So, yeah, I think I want to keep it.
I mean, the free hit will essentially be used for De Gea, who I wouldn't be surprised if he concedes in both games.
Yeah.
Emerson Royale, who you've said isn't that good anyway. Trossard, who's got like 3 attacking returns in all season in 3 different games, and Mora.
And Kane.
And Kane's a big one. Is it worth? That's the question.
But
is it worth
Kane
a free
in
hit
for Antonio? Antonio could do it against Leeds, couldn't he?
I don't think. I think Kane is the best captaincy option, but I don't think he's worth a free hit. So that's why I'm not going to do it.
Okay. Well, it'll go to the wire for me. I'll wait to see if Conte said anything tonight about Reguilon, whether we get anything in the embargoed stuff, and then I'll obviously tweet out on Friday, because Friday is the deadline, right? What's the time? Is it a 6:30 deadline?
6:30.
6:30 ahead of the Brighton's defeat to Crystal Palace. We haven't got the leagues updated, but we have got info on Green Arrow. Let's push this again. You got a red arrow this week though, so you're not contributing. I know you did. You did probably get a green. What am I saying?
Did I have my check?
We haven't checked our ranks, because let's do this while we're live on air. Because let's see what
I don't think they've updated yet.
Okay.
Have they?
What's Ragabolly saying for you?
Let's have a look.
I think you must have got a green with the Bowen second goal, surely. You were red before that went in, and I was gloating. But yeah.
I am... No, I'm on a red.
Are you?
I'm on a red.
I don't know what, I shouldn't look so chuffed. Are you? Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, 9,700 to 11,000.
Right. Okay. Anyway, so no contribution from you this week, but don't worry, I've kept it up with my...
As long as one of us...
My 4th green arrow in 5 weeks. I'm back, guys. I'm officially back.
75 points.
Still miles behind you. Yeah, okay, whatever. But yeah, anyway, talk about the FPL challenge.
Yeah, so this is what Mark and I do each week. A lot of you are probably familiar with it by now. Hopefully, some of you have got involved in it too. We donate a £5 each every time we get one of us gets a green arrow, and nothing if we get a red, but it's to encourage and incentivise us to do well. You can donate as little as 65p though, and all the money goes to charity to feed starving people across the world. Have a look in the description for the link.
Please do, and then it's just a smash and likes, right? As we've had 1,600 people watching live at the moment. Thank you very much for your support there. You know what to do, Loaz.
Absolutely. Hit the like button. 263. It's always been my dream to get 1,000 likes, mid-stream, which I think was...
I think that's impossible, isn't it? Unless you're Andy.
I don't know. I mean, one day, we could have a couple of thousand people watching. Maybe we'd done it when Torres scored that goal in the match of the day. That was probably our best chance.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that again.
But yeah, if you can hit the like button, I know all the streamers and everything says it, but it does help a lot
They all
with
say it,
getting more viewers and everything. And subscribe to the channel so
Absolutely.
that you can get notifications when we go live.
Yep. And thanks for watching and listening. If you're listening to the podcast, we'll try and get this out as quickly as possible ahead of the deadline. And then well, I guess we're back next week to pick the bones out of the double game week while it's in progress again, right?
Oh yeah. So what would that be? So it'll be Wednesday next week. So are there any games
What's the
on?
game?
Yeah, there are games on. We could do a bit of a watch along. It's Leicester Spurs and Brentford United.
All right, we'll think about that. Maybe do.
They're both on BT Sport as well, so we could
okay.
watch one each, even maybe.
Okay, let's see what we can rustle up for that. But we'll be back next week, hopefully in good spirits and not struggling with our mental health, and hopefully recovered from a good game week. Another green arrow for us. Let's see. That's all from me then. It's a good night from me.
Good night, everyone.